Life is dark, the world is dark, there is no point in existence. At times, some people feel like this. At some stages in people's lives, we know that mental anguish, the destruction of what happens around a person, can start to eat away at who a person is. We've seen this right over and over and over again throughout history. Sometimes it's a mental or a psychological disorder, but sometimes it can be things that are happening around us, and that brings mental health problems in all sorts of different ways. And many of us, at different times, we've probably experienced some of this. We think, what's the point? Where is our joy gone? And what's the point of life? Job, in the first reading today, has an experience of everything crumbling around him. The death of members of his family, property falling apart, his wealth disappearing, his job gone. What's the point, he says, of existence? Never again will I see joy. This is the way Job was feeling. And this can easily happen to all of us at different times of our lives. We think, what's the point? To a certain extent, sometimes this can be because of the circumstances of our life. Sometimes it can be because of a psychological problem. But sometimes it's the presence of evil getting in to bring negativity, darkness into our life. Jesus goes from place to place, and we hear this last week in our gospel, and we hear it again today. 3 mentions of it, that Jesus goes and he casts out devils. He casts out the presence of evil within others so that they will experience not darkness and gloom, but joy. That's what we're meant to be about. The way of Jesus is a way not of darkness, but it's a way of happiness. And whenever we're casting out and getting rid of that nastiness, that darkness in our world, we are participating in the work of Jesus to eliminate evil from the world. And that's a great work. I was talking with some priests yesterday, and we were discussing a little bit about how the world seems to become, at least in some areas, has become obsessed with exorcisms. People sort of think, the casting out of devils is a bit like the Exorcist movies or different TV series that sort of show these dramatic casting out of evil. But I think evil is a little bit more, those ways that you might see in some of those movies and TV shows, that might be real. But the presence of evil is present in many other ways as well. And when we allow darkness to eat away at us, we're allowing that evil to come into the world. And so we're called to be positive. We're called to be joyful. We're called to spread that goodness, that happiness to others. And when you see someone who's a bit down, let's not kick them when they're down. Let's lift them up. That's the way of Jesus. That's part of the way of Jesus casting out devils, is to lift up a person, to let them smile, to let them have that joy. On Monday, the church celebrates and dedicates the day on this coming Monday to the feast day of St. Josephine Bakhita. She had many experiences of darkness. As a child, she was sold into slavery in Sudan. And she was then bought and sold a number of times. And she felt at times that her life, like Job in this first reading, she thought at times she would never see joy again. Her life was filled with hatred. People were inflicting hatred upon her. And eventually she was taken to Italy. She was sold to a diplomat, taken to Italy. And then there was a dispute that went on as to whether it was right for her to be a slave. And eventually it was decided that by the courts in Italy, over about 100 years ago, that she was free. She can't be a slave because slavery does not exist. And she was given freedom. Evil and darkness happen when we take freedom away, when we don't allow people to have that experience of joy. When Job realized that what he had in life was not about all the externals, but that he had joy, the presence of evil left. and he was able to continue to live on his life. 3 years ago, I helped with a pilgrimage or a trip for teachers from Sydney Catholic schools to the Philippines. It was organised by Catholic Mission. We went to Cebu City and we interacted with a group of sisters who have been rescuing young girls who have been sold, some by their own parents, as young as 10 years old, who have been sold into slavery today. This is happening in our world right now. At any given time, estimates is that there are 40 million people who are in slavery on a particular day in the world. This is evil. And we can say, oh, well, it doesn't impact us. Well, we're actually told that it actually does impact us. And our government and others are trying, and as the church, we are trying as well to do what we can to eliminate this evil in the world. This is hard. But all of us, to a certain extent, by getting a bargain, by getting something super cheap and not worrying about where it's come from, there's probably a good chance, if no one's asking any questions, that it might have come from a little child making it for nothing who's in slavery in another country. And it gets shipped to Australia and it finds itself in a little bargain shop. And we don't know. This is evil. And this is part of driving out evil, is for us to say, we're going to look and we're going to do what we can to eliminate this presence of evil in our world. Eliminating evil is not just what you see in an exorcist movie. This sort of, a priest comes and prays all these prayers and so on, and you drive out the demon. Eliminating evil is all of us standing up to say, we're not allowing this to happen. And we are going to be people not of darkness. We are not going to be people who just turned a blind eye. We're going to be the people of light. And we're going to bring freedom, joy, and happiness to all people. This is the way of Jesus. This was the way of St. Josephine Bakhita. Let us courageously today hear her story and do what we can to ask a few questions. I've written about it in the bulletin. There's a little bit more in the bulletin if you'd like to look as to what you can do. All of us should be informed that slavery is not just something that happened 2,000 years ago or 100 years ago. It's happening today. And we have a part to play to eliminate this presence of evil in our world.